And welcome back to a new episode of the Skating Penguin Network Mailbag, ladies and gentlemen. It is Robbie back here with Snail. A little program change from last week that we are just going to jump right into a new mailbag episode. Thank you guys who reached out and asked us more questions. So we are definitely locked and loaded um, with some backup questions should we need them the rest of the summer here. So thank you guys for doing that. A rainy day here in Western Pennsylvania. Finally getting some
Nice.
rain after a extended dry period. We got a little bit last week as well, but we're gonna need more than just a little bit. But it is raining here as we record this. So, Snell, how is it out in Seattle?
I've got to ask Robbie, did you do the classic like dad thing? Because we're old now. We're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
young people anymore.
yeah.
Did you do the classic like hands on the hips, looking out and mutter to yourself, "We need this"?
No, mine was more or less trying to run in with groceries, dodging raindrops.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, it's definitely it definitely got to the oh man, we really needed this rain kind of
Yeah.
kind of mindset, but no hands on the hips or anything like that. Just a bit of relief because it was so dry and out here that we just needed any kind of consistent precipitation, and we're finally getting it today. It's been rolling through kind of as the day's gone along.
I hear you, man. It's funny. It's not raining here, but my favorite kind of day. I've developed a love for the type of day that we're experiencing in the greater Seattle area right now, just growing up in the Pacific Northwest. It is 69 degrees, nice.
Nice.
And it's completely overcast. We have those classic, I mean, they probably occur all over the country, but I assimilate them with like the Northwest the most, and it's those gray clouds that are so dark they have like a hint of blue to them, and some of them
Yeah,
even like a tiny bit of purple.
yeah.
It's just gorgeous. You can't see any blue sky, but it's there's a light breeze. On my way to work this morning, there was just the ever so slightest amount of mist, and it's a beautiful. I love days like today, especially it's been hot out here in the Pacific Northwest too, very hot, and there's a fire across the mountains, so we're getting some of those smoky days. You go outside and there's just a hint of cinders in the air, which sucks. So yeah, that's what it's like out here right now. Pretty happy about it, and yeah, I guess we got our weather chat out of the way. Why don't we jump into some questions from our loyal listeners, who I just want to say I appreciate. It's fun talking hockey in the summertime. I look forward to these podcasts because I'm so starved for hockey content, especially right now in the doldrums of summer. And I'm sure, Robbie, it's the same for you. We're both. Are you at the point yet where you're watching hockey clips on YouTube?
Oh yeah, I started watching hockey clips on YouTube.
Yep, we're at that point. So it's cool. We have this little community of. It's like we have this little group of friends, and we get to just like talk about hypotheticals and all the stuff that hockey nerds love to kind of talk about things that have nothing to do with hockey, just life stuff. So appreciate all you guys always chiming in the on Twitter, and letting us talk with you guys, and talk with each other. So with that, we'll go to somebody that we know actually I know quite a lot about without ever having met the guy. It's our one of our most loyal fans and our listeners, and that's Brian. And he asks, or he says here, he watched that Vancouver riot documentary and it was wild. And for some reason, I don't remember that happening at all. Maybe because I wasn't on Twitter yet. He's talking about the ESPN documentary they did on the Game 7 Vancouver Canucks versus Boston Bruins game that resulted in a loss for Vancouver, and it actually instigated a massive riot in Vancouver. For those that aren't familiar with what he's talking about, but Robbie, what do you got to say about this?
Yeah, I can't believe that Brian um, didn't know this because even if you were on Twitter, like this was on the news. Like this was a massive destructive riot in downtown Vancouver, and like I mean they destroyed buildings. You had that famous picture of that couple on the street. I can't remember the exact story, but she was injured and he was trying to help her up, and yeah, it was just a mass. Again, it was a major event after a sporting event, and I honestly think that the more you learn about it, the more like even if they would have lost, that was going to happen. It was a pre-planned thing by outside agitators. It was probably going to happen anyway, but just the loss on top of all that, it was a very, yeah, it was a chaotic night. I just remember like obviously watching the game online or on TV, and then on Twitter, kind of seeing like, um, like some disturbances, obviously, which you kind of expect. It happens, and then all of a sudden, it just turned into this mass chaos. There's that picture with the Asian guy holding the hockey stick outside of like
Yes.
a store that the glass is shattered, and it almost looks like a cartoon. Like it almost doesn't even look like real. It looks like an AI image almost, just way before AI was that powerful. And yeah, that was a crazy night. Um,
It was a
just
super crazy
insane.
night. Because I
Yeah,
live in Seattle, right across the border from Vancouver. Uh, I mean, we were worried it was going to trickle down here, which was totally a unrealistic thing that would have happened. But we remember like, oh, just right over the border, shit's getting real. And I remember being like, you know, 2011, that was the year after I graduated high school. I just remember being like, oh,
yeah,
dang, those Canadians are passionate about hockey. And then like seeing like the extent of the devastation that happened, it was pretty insane, honestly. Pretty crazy kind of historical event to happen based off of like just, you know, based off of a sporting event.
yeah. Just a very kind of obviously unhinged um, moment. And it's kind of, yeah, it kind of ties into, obviously it's connected with hockey history in a way, but yeah, it was a very, yeah, if you were around for that and if you were into hockey then, you didn't really have to be online because again, it was a huge moment, but it was crazy. I'm glad it kind of got the documentary treatment because it's interesting to look at how all that broke down.
Did you watch the doc?
I saw parts of it. I haven't watched the whole thing.
So I think one of the major things that they were kind of trying to hammer home that made this such an important kind of moment in history was because it was the first riot to happen that was during the social media like iPhone era. So a lot of it was captured, and that's how a lot of people got in trouble. No one had been through
Uh
a riot with smartphones posting on Twitter and Instagram and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Instagram might not have even been around yet. It would have been Facebook and stuff. So I think that was like probably what made it documentary worthy was just showing how social media exacerbated the whole thing, and a lot of people got in more trouble because of it. But yeah, super interesting stuff.
Oh, it was insane. It was
Do you
insane.
do you think that if Brian was lived in Vancouver and delivered mail, do you think he would have participated in the riot?
He's just like driving his little mail truck around like flames and
Throwing
smoke
M80s and
and just like throwing mail and just like yeah.
throwing
All this
people's mail.
all of a
You
sudden
see
like
Brian, he's driving a little Canadian mail truck, and he
yeah,
just has his mail gitch, that bag they have, just on
yeah.
fire, like
Yeah.
twirling it like a
All of a
madman.
sudden like he goes in the back and he rises out of the top on a turret with like with uh a machine gun and it's just like and it just starts instead of bullets it's just envelopes of mail
It's
shooting out.
people's mail.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would Garrett do if he was confronted in? Or what would Garrett do if he was around in the riots? What would you think his part in that would be?
Run and hide.
uh,
As far as he could with shin splints.
he would. That would have been his first case of shin splints because he would have been like 6 when that happened. So
Yeah. All right. Sticking with Brian here. What's a restaurant franchise that you would like to have come to your area?
I mean, I'm going to give two answers because my answer is kind of lame because because of my dietary and moral like guidelines that I follow. But
Mm-hmm.
there's this place in California. It's called like Amy's Drive Through, and they're essentially like a vegan fast food chain, but they have a drive through and they're open late. So I would like that. But but with that's my boring political answer. But like if I wasn't following like the dietary guidelines that I've chosen to follow, I'd probably want something like, ugh. There's actually a few things that kind of come to mind. Just I want something disgusting. So I want like a Waffle House, or I want
Okay.
I've had In and Out Burger, and I've explored their menu when I've been to California before I was ever vegan, and I think it's a little overrated to be totally fair. But uh, maybe something like maybe I probably might choose like In-N-Out Burger or what's that fried chicken place that's not
Chick-fil-A.
not Chick-fil-A. We
Oh,
have those here.
um,
Maybe it's like a
there's a
is it
couple. I
called
mean,
Bojangles?
Bojangles is one of. I mean, there is a couple. That's why.
Is Bojangles like the one that's like a southern institution?
Yeah, Bojangles is more southern. Yeah.
So I would probably like something that we don't have up here in the Pacific Northwest. And I don't care if you ask somebody that's from here and they try to tell you otherwise, they are a straight up liar. We don't have barbecue in the Northwest. There is no culture of barbecue or people. There's people that try to make barbecue, but it's not like what you get in the South. And our fried chicken, we do have a Zell's, which I think got a little bit of fame worldwide. Because Oprah Winfrey said it was the best fried chicken she ever had, and she would
Okay.
fly it in. She'd have a private jet fly in a Zell's chicken. So we have that. It's actually kind of this interest. They'll probably get a documentary one day. It was a Zell's, and then the owners had a fight and they split. So you have a Zell's and Heaven Sent. It's essentially the same chicken, but I would like something. My point, all this is we don't have good barbecue, and we don't really have aside from a Zell's, which there's only like a few locations. We don't have like fast food fried chicken and like the like coleslaw and like mashed potatoes and like that southern food. We don't have any of it up here. So I would want something like that and get some sweet tea or something. Robbie, what about
Yeah.
you?
Well, I don't have. I well, okay. I have Chick-fil-A not that far from me, but not within like daily driving distance. In Pittsburgh, there's a restaurant called Burgatory, and
Burgatory?
it's a burger place. Um, I'd love one of those locally because again, they're so good. Uh,
What is it that
other-
makes them good that sets them apart from your average burger chain?
it's basically a build your own burger kind of thing. It's not just a like a Five Guys something like that. You can get different kinds of meats. They have vegan options. They have vegetarian
No way.
options.
So it's kind of like going into like a Chipotle or something or like a Subway. You can
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
build your
Except
own.
it's more of a sit down. Like they like you don't go to like a bar kind of thing and they put it on like you get it cooked to your specifications. You kind of bun you one if you want no bun. Your sides. They have like a full menu too of different kinds of burgers, and they have really good milkshakes.
Okay, I like that. I like
Yeah,
that idea that you can kind of customize it. That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. What about like, do you guys have taco time out there?
No,
Okay, I think that's probably a Northwest thing.
probably.
Anyways, we'll move on. I could talk about. I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten today. Probably gonna have to get some food after this. After that, but we got a question from Andreas Castle, and right now he's bringing up Sid, which is not gonna lie. I had a dream actually last night, Robbie. I had a dream Sid got traded to Colorado and signed a 3-year extension, and in my dreams, they were talking about it on the news, and it was Sid celebrate. You know his classic celebrating the golden goal where he has his hands up like
Yeah.
right after he scores. They just used that photo in my dream, and they like did like an AI rendering of the Colorado Avalanche, the dark blue one over that. And that was a dream I had last night. 3-year extension in Colorado. But yeah, Sid still hasn't signed, so this is a little triggering. But he asks, when Sid retires, how long do you think it will take until the next generational talent will play for the Pens? Because in Pittsburgh, they just have to have a generational talent, right?
Yeah, yeah, it feels like that, but uh, again, your guess is as good as mine, Andreas. Again, Crosby was a bouncing ball. Again, Malkin would have been a generational talent. He obviously wasn't the first overall pick. Fleury was a part of that too, but the truly generational, like a McDavid or a McKinnon, I don't know. I mean, it's all going to depend on how bad they get. If they are going for a small tear down and without a full like Blackhawks rebuild, it might not be a truly generational talent unless they just find that diamond in the rough at like let's say pick 10 of the draft. Like it's going to be not it's going to be difficult because I don't think they're going to be I don't think Hal Dubas wants them to get as bad as they were what led into Crosby and Malkin and stuff like that. But yeah, unless you get one let's say they finish 10th worst in the league one year, and the ball bounces right, and they get a top 3 pick. Then again, you're maybe looking at 5 years down the road at the earliest, I'd say, and that's if everything goes right. And I'm not certain that's how it's all going to play out because there's a lot to kind of um, a lot to happen, but yeah, it's tough to say. I'd say minimum 5 years, and that's if everything kind of falls apart, I guess. But again, if you get Crosby 4 more years, I just don't see them being in a position where they're going to be bad enough to be let's call it a favorite to land a generational talent. And just because you get the top overall pick does not necessarily mean you're getting a generational talent. I think
That's a good point.
Connor Bedard, obviously a generational talent. Macklin Celebrini, I think, can be really, really good. They're not talking about him like he's going to be a generational talent. Yeah, I don't know. Like, so if you're looking 5 years out at the earliest, I'm sure there's names of people that are really into scouting to kind of keep an eye on. But even at this point, those kids are 12, 13 years old and have so much development to go through until they even get any major hype on kind of a mainstream scouting uh, websites or people that follow that kind of stuff intently. But I think that one, you need to make sure there's a generational talent in the pool of draftees, and then you got to get the balls to bounce right. You got to be bad enough to have the best option for that. And yeah, I think it's just a wait and see type thing, and it could be a long time before we see another. Again, if we're defining generational as like a McKinnon or a McDavid or a Crosby, a very long time before one comes back to Pittsburgh. But I will say, the Penguins seem to have a way to get those players. So maybe it's just a franchise blessing. Those guys somehow fall into laps of Penguins.
I mean, dude, do you remember? Obviously I wasn't watching hockey at this time because this would have been in like I think like 92 or 93. But have you heard like the tale of like Alexander Daigle?
Yeah, I remember Daigle.
So he ended up, he played in the NHL and stuff, but he was the first overall pick and
Mm-hmm.
highly touted juniors prospect, can't miss prospect.
Oh yeah,
And he got taken first overall, and he was not a first
no,
overall player.
yeah. That's another caveat is they have to live up to that hype too. I mean, yeah, McDavid has. You could definitely say Crosby obviously has. McKinnon has. But maybe they're more like a Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall was a very good player. Won a Hart Trophy, was an MVP, but never was kind of like the guy for Edmonton. And then he kind of went around the league, and I think he was hurt last year. So yeah, he was never really the guy, like a guy like McDavid or Crosby was. But yeah, you got to live up to the hype too. Like Yakupov. Yakupov was supposedly a can't miss prospect, and just absolutely never panned out. So yeah,
Nope, he's over in Russia. He hopped around the league. I mean, even like Alexi Lafreniere was he was like the number one pick. It was supposed to be a stud, and I mean, he's coming into his own more so now. But there was a few years where it was dicey on whether this guy was going to be, he might be a bottom six type guy. But anyways, yeah, you got to live up to the hype, and you never know. Pittsburgh, like you said, they seem to have a knack of getting these players.
yeah. All right, question number 4 from Brian. Brian is indeed suffering in the muck, except I'd like to say I'm suffering more because I have to deal with all the political mail being sent out. Those political mailings are paper cut city, by the way. And when he said suffering in the muck, I believe, Snell, you sent a picture of his dash of his mail truck, and I believe it read like 102 or 104 degrees or something like that. Brian's a little closer to Pittsburgh than I am, and I'm a little more in the hills where it does stay, like on the ridges where it does stay a little bit cooler. He's more in a valley where it can get just brutal. And
it was 106.
106. And this was like a week or two, or 10 days ago or something like that. And man, dude, you sent me that and was like, this is absolutely miserable.
So I because I think I sent that to you, and you said probably no AC in that either, but we have to remember he delivers on foot.
Yeah, so it doesn't really. I mean, he can go in there and get like a nice little cool down every once in a while, but I think he just drives to a place, parks, delivers whatever that area consists of, gets in, drives to the next place. So he's not just his vehicle. His vehicle is more for just getting to an area and storage for all the mail.
Crazy. So yeah, that sucks. That's hot. 106 is hot, dude. Like
106 is hot anywhere you're at, whether it's Pennsylvania, Texas, Arizona.
no,
It's hot.
the
Yeah,
human body is just not super stoked when it's
not
in
designed for that.
106.
No.
Yeah, not designed for that whatsoever. So, yep. Well, it's summertime, man. But it's one of those things. Summer is fleeting. It's so short. And Robbie, before you know it, it's gonna be, February 14th, or that's weird that came to my mind. February 14th is Valentine's Day. It's going to be mid-December, it's going to be mid-January, it's going to be mid-February, and we're all going to be, it's going to be wet and cold. And anyways, yeah, so
Yeah,
try to enjoy it while you can. Hard to in 106 though, that's nuts. So
that's hot.
we'll move on to a question now from our good pal Kim Larson. And he says here, just for fun, maybe not fun, let's say Sid doesn't sign a new contract. Who would you try to get as a replacement for the top line?
I mean, I don't know what you do. I don't know if there is an option for that. I think at that point, if he
Gino.
would, Gino's going to be getting toward the end of that contract too, though. I mean, you have only 1 year left, I think. Maybe hope that Yeager can be a center in the at the next level, though he seems to project more as a wing with his scoring ability. But I think at that point, if Crosby would not sign a contract and would leave Pittsburgh after next season, I think that that's the point where you try to maybe suck for a little bit and see if you can't get one of those generational talents that we talked about. I don't know who exactly is coming up.
Yeah, who is like I've heard of Gavin McKenna.
Yeah, that's one name. I think he's next year though.
Yeah.
So the Penguins probably wouldn't be in the running for that.
They should just suck this year.
Just straight up suck. Just trade Crosby right now and just suck this year in hopes of getting again. To be that bad though, like you'd have to completely strip this team down for parts and get rid of so much and just be like, we're calling up all the AHL guys and we're gonna record like 60 points this year and just be absolute dog water for 82 games. But and again, there's no guarantee at that point either. It would just be really funny if the Penguins. I think the funniest outcome is the Penguins being mid and getting the ball bounce to go from like 10th to 1st and getting a top overall pick. I think that's the funniest outcome for everybody involved because it would make so many people so mad. Like even like the Flyers were dreadful, could not even get like a top 4 pick. The Red Wings have struggled with lottery luck the entire time Yzerman's been in Pittsburgh or in Detroit. Would just be incredibly funny if the Penguins would just be mid and get one of those picks. That's what I was kind of hoping like last year when they had that first round pick, they would bounce up to 4th and be in position for like Mitch Cobb or one of those top 5 guys that were really good, but unfortunately it didn't happen. They got Yeager instead. But no, if Crosby would leave, then I'd just say tear it down, be bad.
To the studs.
Yes, I'd trade. I mean, I don't know what value like Malkin has or anything like that, but like just get value for anything, tear it down to the studs, sign a bunch of jobbers, and basically use what youth you have to crawl through the season and then give yourself the best odds as possible to get a very bad player. I think that's the only truly way that you're going to be able to replace Sidney Crosby. It's just be awful and get that generational player. All right, sticking with Kim here. Could James Van Riemsdyk be an option as a free agent? Could be a guy we could have in front of the net on the power play, maybe on a cheap 1-year deal.
Yeah, JVR is somebody that I've wondered about for since he was in Toronto, if he would be a fit for the Penguins. That net front presence, it's just like he's kind of an independent contractor now. That's just what he brings. He's like a middle six type player. But is he is he enough of like a real good net front guy that he's gonna make like that? Because that's he doesn't bring much else. He has no foot speed, and he doesn't really like score from like proximity. I don't really think he has like nasty hands or anything like that. Like, who would you be removing to bring in a guy like JVR? I honestly don't know. I feel like with because right now I'm a little bit lost and confused with what Dubas is. I don't know what Dubas is really doing this year. He's signing a lot of guys again, kind of like last year. He brings in Kevin Hayes. I think Kevin Hayes and JVR played in Philly for a little bit. So,
Yeah, he did.
um, I at this point, if they sign JVR, I wouldn't mind it because yeah, maybe you can stick him net front, and I think JVR is not really in a position in his career to be demanding a ton of term and money.
No, no.
So, would I be mad at it? No. Would I, if I had the control, if I'm playing NHL GM mode, would I pull the trigger on a JVR? Probably not. But again, wouldn't be mad at it. I wouldn't be surprised if before summer's over you see JVR signed to a 1 year deal, 900K type thing. Again, he has a little bit of he played with. That's a reach. Even he played with Kevin Hayes for like what a year maybe in Philadelphia. A third line with like Hayes, JVR, and Valtteri Puustinen or something. I wouldn't be super upset at that as like a third
Yeah.
scoring line. What do you think, Robbie? Where are you at on JVR? Tell us your thoughts on how you feel about a player like JVR?
I don't know what JVR has left in the tank. Yeah, from a power play perspective, probably looks good on paper. Just don't know what he has left. A cheap deal, a flyer, and let's say like 3 weeks from now, I wouldn't hate it. He was definitely not going to. He was not going to be a guy that I had at the top of my list um, at the beginning of summer, and it depends on if he wants to play or not. Like you figure he probably does. He hasn't announced retirement or anything yet, but he's definitely at the end. He was drafted the same year as Patty Kane, so you can kind of uh, parse out where exactly he is in the timeline here, age wise. Uh, I don't know where exactly he fits into this roster, but if you're going cheap and you're looking for a guy that can probably contribute, especially on special teams, on the power play, then maybe you do take a flyer. But I'm not sure that is the type of guy they're looking for right now, unless you, like you said, come very, very vet minimum kind of cheap.
Yeah, kind of on the same page, I guess, as far as that goes. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. You think Sidney Crosby's just like rolling his eyes when he sees some of these signings at this point? Like
I don't know.
maybe, yeah. I guess maybe Sid's excited. Sid, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, JVR, we'll see. All right, I think this is the final question of our mailbag for today, and it's coming from Kim again, and he's asking Robbie. He said, "Someone asked what you would do if you had a day with Lord Stanley. I took pictures with it and pictures of my lads with it."
Yeah, so if you go to the Skating Penguin Network Twitter account, uh, Kim is from Denmark, and Lars Eller, when he won the Cup in 2018 with the Washington Capitals, yeah, boo. But Kim did get a chance to see the Cup and get pictures with the Cup, and Lars Eller actually is a part of these pictures. So it's always I love even.
Oh, so he actually has photos with the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, if you go to the mentions, I believe it was on last week's question. You can see pictures of Kim uh, with the Stanley Cup, and I believe either his kids or his friends' kids, nephews maybe, and Lars Eller is in one of the pictures as well. It's really, yeah, it's one thing. No matter who wins the cup, I love seeing what the players do with it in the summer because they get in all sorts of kind of tomfoolery with the Stanley Cup, what they're eating out of it, where they're sleeping with it, what body of water they're currently taking it for a swim in. It's our parade. It's just really fun um, to see what players do. Remember the images of when McKinnon had his party, Crosby just being completely lambasted in a club or something. Um, I think Sid lived it up at McKinnon's party more than McKinnon did. And I think Crosby was like, I've done this 3 times, and every time I have to be on my best behavior when I have the cup on the parades and stuff. So he's like, Nate, you have to behave this time. I'm gonna enjoy it, party, enjoy your celebration, and get waxed. I know that McKinnon was a partier when he was hanging out with Crosby in the cup. Um, a very cool friendship there. But I love seeing what players do with the cups. I know there was a picture of Matthew Tkachuk had it in bed. Um, um, there's a picture of him hoisting the cup outside a firehouse in his hometown, and you could see his dad in the reflection of the window taking the picture. Walt was taking the picture of Tkachuk. No, you had Luongo eating just an absurd amount of spaghetti.
Penne pesto or something.
Yeah, out of the cup. Might have been penne vodka actually, which is
oh yeah, it was red. I think
it was really funny. But no, I love that these guys get. I love the tradition. It's one of the best traditions in sports, being able to celebrate with the cup in your own way because you earned it. So, did you find the pictures?
No, I was looking through them and I can't find it. But I was gonna ask, did he touch the cup?
Kim, you will have to answer that question as to whether or not you actually touched the Stanley Cup. You know you're not supposed to unless you earned it, but I know I'm never playing hockey, so I have touched it just because I don't care.
Kim, I hope you know also that year would have been a Penguins three-peat had they not traded Ryan Reeves for Broussard. That would have been a three-peat, but they got rid of the toughness, and then Tom Wilson.
If you go to the mailbag on July 14th, he replied on July 18th, and then it's in a reply to that tweet.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm looking.
Yeah.
All right, so July 14th. Then we're scrolling down.
On July, he said someone, and there's like two emojis with it. And he replied to that tweet.
Oh, yep. Oh, here it is. Oh, yeah, there's Lord Stanley. Oh, and his lads are in Capitals gear. He has a Caps hat on. Well, he is touching it. Oh, no, that's Lars Eller touching it.
Yeah, Lars Eller's touching it.
Lars Eller's touching it. He kind of looks like Lars. He looks like he could be Lars Eller's like older brother.
He kind of, yeah, maybe all Danes look the same.
They all share one ancestor. That's unreal, though. That's cool. You got to see the cup. No one from Seattle. TJ Oshie didn't bring the cup to Washington. He's from Everett, Washington.
Yeah.
Tyler Johnson's from Spokane, but I think he lives in Idaho now. So yeah, no one's. If we're gonna see the Stanley Cup here in Seattle, someone's gonna have to from the Kraken. So the Kraken's gonna have to either win it or maybe if Kyler Yamamoto's ever still in the league again, maybe he'll bring it back this way. So I would touch the hell out of the Stanley Cup. I'm
never gonna win it.
The Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Like, I want to lift it. Yeah. If I had the chance, I would actually be doing the the whole rigmarole. I'd probably even give a fucking rights just to I'm never gonna get to do that.
No, I don't. Yeah, I mean, if somebody's like, "Hey, do you want to lift it?" Absolutely. Yes. Not even thinking twice about it.
We're never gonna play for a team, and we're never gonna. I think that ship has sailed for us, Rob.
Unfortunately, yeah, I do not foresee myself being a NHL hockey player at 30, almost 35. So
totally. And I feel like, I don't know, it's weird if you really want to get into the superstitions of it. It's like, I'm from Seattle. Does me touching it curse Seattle then?
You're not a Seattle fan though.
Yeah, so it's like it's even kind of weird like that. I don't know. So I would lift the hell out of the Stanley Cup.
I will say though, during the 2017 Cup, they had the cup in Nashville before the series started, and their fans were touching it and picking it up. So,
no way.
Yeah, I do remember that. I explicitly remember that. And yeah, they didn't win the cup that year, obviously.
Sidney Crosby was watching that just like, you idiot.
He was actually watching that in a dark hotel room, absolutely stewing.
Like Bane or something. He's like,
yes, yes.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
So yeah, that's awesome that seeing that he got a chance to peep the cup and check it out and see Lars Eller, who ironically enough won the cup as a Capital. That's pretty cool. Um, let us know if you touched it, Kim.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's his fault.
Maybe
It's
it
his
is.
fault it's never come back here. No,
Maybe it is.
it's Rutherford's because he traded Ryan Reeves for Derek Brassard.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
never let that one go. But Robbie, I think just because of where we're at in the world right now with the climate, not the weather climate, I mean the political climate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Trump got shot at. We talked about that
We talked
already.
about that. Yeah.
Hulk Hogan ripped off his shirt and endorsed him at was that the Republican what do they call that?
The convention.
The convention.
Yes, he did. That was quite a moment.
That was quite a moment. If you haven't seen it,
And I'm not really even
Hulk,
a wrestler. I'm not really even a wrestling, but everybody knows who Hulk Hogan is.
everyone knows who Hulk Hogan is. He's a pop culture guy. That was interesting to see. That dude he said some insane stuff. I mean, even if you're a Republican or a Democrat, he said some nonpartisan type crazy stuff. I think a little bit in that. And then the other thing is, our current president has announced that he's dropping out of the race.
Yes, that came down yesterday. This is Monday. That was Sunday. Um, he did announce that he is no longer seeking re-election. Let's put it that way.
He's 82 years old. I think he has COVID, or as they're calling it, Jovid right now. Uh, it's he's going to continue being president till January, the end of his official term, right?
Yeah,
But he's no longer seeking re-election, and it's kind of crazy, kind of a crazy last couple of weeks here politically in the United States.
yeah, it
Something
has
of
been.
which I have heard some people say it's certainly the craziest in our lifetimes, I think.
Absolutely
But like historically too, like some of the stuff that's going on right now hasn't really happened in our country before. Just like the sequence of events that have taken place.
correct.
So it'll be interesting to see. Like it's only it's the end of we're ticking towards the end of July here. The November, when the election occurs, isn't for a few months still, and it's pretty chaotic right now within the U.S. So it'll be an interesting thing to see, kind of the events unfold. Hopefully, we don't enter like a civil war, or
Would be preferable. Yes.
yeah, something like that as we get closer to when dude, do you think that Brian will deliver your ballot?
No, he's not. I'm not in that area.
That'd be hilarious if he sees your ballot, he touches it and looks at it, and he just like I don't know, looks at it, pops it open, does the old trick where he like puts a light up to the back to see who you voted for.
Holds it against me for the rest of my life.
He sees who you votes for, and depending on who he agrees with politically or aligns with
Yeah.
politically, he just like throws it out the window.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I figured we should touch on that just because shit's wild right now.
That's fair.
Anything else
All right.
going on?
No, no, pretty much nothing else.
How are you spending your summer days these days? Like what have you been up to? Are you just I mean, you just like you work normally and then you come home and avoid the heat?
Yeah, that's basically it. It's just sometimes go back to the pool just to cool down, but I mean, it's just hot, man. It's just been hot.
Have you been having any it's funny, people always talk about like drinking in the summertime. It's like a good time to drink, but sometimes when it's too hot, it's actually
yeah.
it's not that
It's
fun to
not.
get all bloated off beer,
No,
you know?
yeah, it's not. It's unless you're like at a pool or have some kind of ability to cool down. It's really not all fun and games when it comes to drinking in the summer. It needs to be there's like a window of good temperature. If it's too cold, it's no good. But if it's too hot as well, you can get miserable really quickly.
Dude, when it's like if it's like 95 degrees out in like the blaring heat and you're drinking beer, like sometimes that'll give you such a quick headache and you'll be like bloated and miserable for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
There is like a sweet spot for drinking. You been to going to any baseball games, like Pirates games or anything?
No, not yet. Again, that's just as miserable. Just sitting out there and stewing in the heat
Cooking.
is no fun either. So, yeah, no, not too much baseball wise or sports wise. It's been the last like 5 days have been a little more mild, so it hasn't been absolutely just miserably terrible. But hoping that it just stays kind of like seasonal the rest of the summer rather than just like Texas hot.
Outrageous. Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked to Garrett at all?
I have not talked to Garrett at all.
You know what? I think we should have just to mix it up for the summer. We should have Garrett on and just like talk. We should pick his brain. We need to get Garrett on once or twice this summer
Yeah, we could try that.
if he would agree. He actually might hate us.
Maybe he does. I don't know.
Well, that's all I got, Robbie.
All right, so that's all Snail got. That's all I got. We will be back later this week with more questions. Thank you guys for submitting them. For Snail, I'm Robbie. We will talk to you guys later this week.